IVM.
I have a confession to make. Today's episode was a tough one to prepare for. Because how does one structure a conversation with your CEO? And I don't mean just for the glitch, but for my life as well. And that's what Pooja is. She's the CEO of my life. Whether it's at the glitch where she's relentlessly driving the business forward and growing it the way only she can do. Or when it's at our home where she's my partner in driving structure in our family. And with someone like me, that's a definitive need in life. And also how we can be the best version of a unit who can be. I guess that's what great CEOs are made of. They inherently understand the structure that needs to be set for everyone within the group that they manage to function at prime efficiency and also prime happiness. They make sure that direction is maintained above all else. And that's why I'm looking forward to see how today's episode goes, especially with me having to drive direction, God help us all, on this special Valentine's Day edition of Advertising is Dead. I'm Varun Duggirala, co-founder and content chief at The Glitch, and we'll be right back with Pooja, CEO of The Glitch.
Hello, everybody. It's been another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. Please follow us on social media if you aren't. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus talks to comedian Neville Shah about going to the same school as Freddie Mercury and how difficulties in life make for great comedic material. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam is joined by the very first guest he had on his podcast. Mahavir Chopra is the Director of Health, Life and Strategic Initiatives at CoverFox. They talk about new online ULIPs and why they're worth your investment. On How to Citizen, Meghnad and Shreya speak to comedian Abbas Momin, that's our very own Abbas, about understanding laws. They try to understand our free speech laws and what exactly is dissent. On the Filter Coffee podcast, animal activist Anand Siva joins Karthik Nagarajan to talk about animal cruelty and environmental conservation. On Geek Fruit, Tejas and Dinkar are joined by producer Janam to discuss the mind-effing films of Christopher Nolan. They talk about his beginnings, his first films, and the moment where he became the modern-day god of cinema. We have a Valentine's Day special on Advertising is Dead. Varun's guest is none other than his wife Pooja Jauhari, who is also CEO at The Glitch. They talk about how they balance their personal and professional lives, how she's made creative people work under a structure, and a lot more. On Golgappa, Rajshri Deshpande of Sacred Games fame talks to Tripti Kamkar about taking up challenging roles as an actor and her social work initiatives. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
Welcome back to Advertising is Dead. I'm Varun Duggirala, co-founder and content chief for The Glitch. And I have a very special guest, like I mentioned before we went off onto our break. But before I state the obvious, Pooja, I think it's time we address the elephant in the room to everybody who's listening.
I am not the elephant in the room.
You are not the elephant in the room. Far from it. Pooja, apart from being the CEO of Glitch and helping people like me and Rohit and a bunch of other and tons of creative people kind of run their lives and run our business, also happens to be my wife. And I think what we're going to do today is talk about how does someone become a CEO of a creative company and have it run, considering creative people hate structure. They cannot hold a thought for too long. They're easily distracted and many, many more things. And it also, how do two people who are married work together? I think we're going to do both those things, considering we're 2 days away from Valentine's Day.
Oh.
So yeah, Pooja, how do you make creative people work under a structure?
You guys, constantly keep telling me that I'm General Pooja, General Jauhari. General Jauhari. And I think it requires that discipline. It's about, creative people are the most important. They're the most important asset in a creative company, obviously, and hence they have to be nurtured and cared for, but also kept together because they're the ones that add the most value to a brand. So while managing creative people is extremely essential, getting the balance between creative and business and strategy is even more important. And I think being able to strive with that has been, what has made, I think, us stick.
And it's interesting when we talk about creative businesses, right? Because what we create isn't tangible, isn't something which we kind of hold. We're not manufacturing actual things. We are creating ideas and we're executing stuff. And we'll talk about how that's evolved, right? How advertising has evolved from that. But inherently, being creative businesses, when you look at what we do, how has life for people like us changed? From the business end of things, but also from the way we're organized. It's no longer just creative people at the center. I think there's so much more that really happens as part of it. And it's easy for us to have this conversation separately and discuss it. But I think it's important to kind of turn to you from your perspective and say, how do you see that playing out?
I say this so often, that this is the most exciting time for companies like us. People who were born into this chaotic digital explosion that has happened, right? Which is so difficult for a lot of people to understand. And for a lot of people to really say what is the best way to do it.
Yeah.
And I think, I get that with a lot, when I'm speaking with so many different kind of people, is that we are actually at the center of, of consumer understanding and really, really so entrenched in the cultural nuances of this creative disruption, of how consumers really behave. And as an organization, because we're digital natives, this comes so easily to us. We don't know any other way.
Yeah.
And because we don't know any other way, this is something that we do on an everyday basis, and it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
So even when we hire talent, it's so specific for us that we hire people who are with it, two really are going to gel with this kind of, this beautiful animal that we've created, which is so unique in its way.
Yeah.
We call ourselves a modern partner, ambitious brands. That's really what our entire focus is. We only want to work with those kind of businesses, and getting the right kind of talent set in an organization like that is so important. So our focus primarily is getting people who are very, very entrenched with the cultural nuances of this industry.
And you've been in this industry for a long time, right? You started off at a very, very early age, and you've been on all sides of the spectrum. You've been on the creative agency, the legacy creative agency side of things. You've been on the client side of things. You've been on the platform side of things. You've been across the spectrum, and just. I think it'd be interesting and because a lot of our listeners are people who kind of setting off into the journey. They're trying to figure out what is their space in the media, advertising and entertainment industry. They're also trying to figure out, okay, what are the different things that I can really do? And I think it's important for them to understand from someone like you, how does that journey happen? Like, how did your journey really happen?
My journey started off, like you said, I worked across various mediums. For anybody who's listening to this, when I look back at, the number of years that I worked for, it's varied experiences. And I think you should allow yourself that. Allow yourself a few experiences till the time you can actually settle onto something that you really, truly love to do and something that you're really, really good at. Because I have been in jobs where I've not been good at something. And then that being able to really be true to yourself and to understand what you really like to do and what you're very good at, and you land at a certain place. Once you've landed in that place, you make sure that you stick and you grow and you nurture your relationship with the organization and expect vice versa.
You started at 17. 16.
I started very young, very, very young. And I think that's, the kind of person that I am. You obviously know that very well. But for everybody else, it's, I say this respectfully. For me, education has always been extremely overrated because you sit in a classroom and you expect, people are talking to you about things continuously. But till the time you don't experience it, the experience is completely different. And I deeply value people who study and have these various degrees. Everyone has a different path. But I always felt that I needed to get my hands dirty really, really quickly because I remember being 16 years old and doing some sort of promotion which I'd really, really lobbied for with a very, very big company, and then asking those people, hey, will you give me a full-time job? And they're like, hey, listen, you're 16 years old, there's no way we can employ you. I was like, I would do anything, please give me a job, I just want to be here and I want to learn, and that has been.
And did they give you the job?
Yes, I did get that job. I got that job. I worked as an intern. My first job was to deliver artworks to clients. Yeah. And I told them that I just let me hang here. From
a different era, this is before artworks could just be emailed. This was from when you had to physically take it and move around.
That's right. So I used to deliver artworks, and that's what I used to do. And 2 months of doing that, and they saw that I was relentless, and I would come every day to just deliver artworks. And they said, okay, come in here, join a brainstorm. And joining that one brainstorm led to one thing and another, and I knew instantly that advertising is my space. And I've tried different things in my career, and I have really experimented, and I'm back there. where I wanted to be actually.
And how you ended up at Glitch is interesting as well, right? I remember that at that point of time you were working at Femina, and we'd come to pitch to you to kind of get your business, which we didn't get. I'm not going to get into why we didn't get it. I think maybe you should touch upon that, but. What happened after that was interesting, where you actually turned around to us and you made us. It was a very Don Corleone moment where you made us an offer we couldn't refuse, and the rest, as me and Rohit especially like to say, is history, because I think what you said to us made so much sense. Actually, has helped us evolve into the company we are. And what did you offer us, Pooja?
Myself. And just it was so interesting because I met Varun and Rohit at a marketing conference, and somebody I deeply love, Sohela, who was really my reporting manager in Femina, used to always tell me that always keep your eyes and ears open for interesting opportunities or interesting people. And I met these two interesting people in this marketing conference, and we exchanged cards. And there is another story to that card exchange which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But we exchanged cards and we said, hey, listen, please come pitch for my business, and let's see where it goes. But I want you to know that I was really, really impressed by your presentation, the presentation you guys made. But I was also so interested in what I could do. Yeah. And that was my phone call. My phone call was, guys, y'all haven't won the business, but give me a job and I will tell you why. And and the rest is history. I mean, they gave him, I came in at a pay cut, and my deal was pretty simple, that if I help win the business and if I help take the company to where you guys, want to see it go, then we'll talk and we'll take it from there. Yeah. So the rest is truly history.
And we constantly talk about how this whole space has evolved, right? Traditionally, the advertising business was I think it was a much simpler world. Yeah, there would be artwork and there would be commercials you would create, and brands also had a much simpler system in terms of how they would really work on their marketing plans and so on and so forth. The world's really changed. I think the last decade has been the most amount of disruption that this space has seen ever. Yeah. Right? TV, it was from print to radio to TV. Whatever the changes were, I think there was a level of normalcy. You could ride that wave easily, and all the waves are still running. Right? This is kind of just. This is like
it's crazy.
It's a hurricane, right?
Yeah.
So when a marketing manager looks at or a CEO looks at what they actually need to do, there's everything there now. There is on one end there is you're talking about you're still doing commercials because there is still very pointed communication you do as a brand. But you're creating content on one side. Your marketing pie is increased. You're trying to sell online. Is what. I think advertising is a lot more answerable now for what it does than it was before. We were a lot more. There is measurable and there is answerable, and from a sales perspective, you really moving product. It's answerable, and I know you're a strong champion of the fact that if you're doing something out there, it needs to be able to sell or move product, and that's a piece which needs to be reinstated more and more.
Of course, without that, what is the point of everything? Right?
Yeah.
Because what is the point of advertising if it is not serving a purpose?
Yeah.
And that is at the center of everything that I believe in, and what, I truly know that this organization that we have believe in. That to our clients and for anybody who's in this space, gone are the days where you could just go to a client and say, hey, listen, this is my great disruptive idea, and invest X amount of money in it. It gives you that tick mark, but that's it. That's over. And then what happens after that? What happens with continuity? What happens with really brand purpose and the fact that you're taking on, that you're building something for a brand, but it actually does very little for the brand? What's the point of it? And then the brand manager is not going to talk to you again.
True.
The CMO is not going to talk to you again. How are you going to become an important partner? And for all young agencies and all people who are in this business, brand understanding has to be at the center of everything you do.
Yeah.
You have to be able, when you're sitting across a client, and this is every opportunity with a client is an opportunity to make an impression.
Yeah.
And if you don't make a solid impression, he or she is not going to call you again.
Yeah.
Because there are 500 people in the market today who are wanting to sell content, wanting to sell social, wanting to sell all forms of digital.
Yeah.
And to have real measurability and have, to become, we say this so often in our company, is that we want to be the most important partners to our clients.
Yeah.
And how are we going to be the most important partners to them if we're not helping move numbers, if you're not helping move product?
Yeah.
What is the point of it?
Yeah, and even sales, right? But when you're talking about what e-commerce has really done, it's also changed the way we create stuff in terms of what do we really create. There are two kinds of content, what I firmly believe, which is the fact that there is content that gives you value in terms of it's helping you buy a product, right? It's showing you saying you are X person, like you are Varun and you have a beard, so you will want beard oil and you will want a comb and it's creating content that makes me want to buy that product. But also there's values driven product, which is brand understanding, right? In terms of just the fact that, okay, when I understand the values of a brand and relate to it, right? Which is why people relate to, let's say, brands like a Nike, and they relate to brands like a Netflix, etc. Because they somehow feel like I connect to this brand, and both have equal weightage.
Of course.
And most times it becomes this or that, which doesn't necessarily need to be the case.
No, and I mean, look at the diversity that we have in the businesses that we handle, or any agency handles.
Yeah.
Everything is not just about sales.
Yeah.
Everything is not just about product upliftment, right? Sometimes it's just brand love.
Yeah.
And is that important? Of course it is. But you have to be very, very clear about that purpose.
Yeah.
You have to be very clear as you go in, and it's your responsibility as a creative team to align that purpose, to make that very, very clear for your client should they not be clear.
Yeah.
And it's fine. As long as you have a clear purpose, that's good. It's not either this or that. It can sometimes be both. It can sometimes be just choosing one.
And one of the points which I always notice that you speak about is the fact that when you talk about the business side of media advertising, there is a term which is called client servicing.
Yeah.
And there is a term which is called strategy. You've been one of the largest propagators of the fact that if you are going to be able to do the business end of something, you need to be strategic.
Yeah.
So if I am a person who's deciding to get into the business side of things, I want to get into account management. I want to get into being able to sell content, being able to sell, or rather to be able to build and grow a business with a client who is a brand. What do I need to really focus on? How do I build myself into that person?
That's a great question, and that's it's so important for young people because everyone's not creative, right?
Yeah,
and everyone in a creative agency is not creative.
Yeah.
But there are other functions which are equally important, because if you don't have, and I don't like to call them servicing, but that's really what is globally recognized.
Yeah.
You don't want paper pushers.
True.
Paper pushers and coordinators are not respected. Anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So it is very important to be able to add additional value. Again, coming back to the fact that you have an opportunity with a client, and if you tell the client, hey, let me just go check with my creative guy, or let me just talk to my planner, and I'll come back to you. But then why is the client talking to you?
Exactly.
He or she could just pick up the phone on the planner, the creative person. And today,
clients want that.
Yeah, clients want to speak to the person who will give them an answer, because they don't want layers and layers and layers of people who will coordinate and send an email and do all of that. So if you should you want to be, and I am that person, I am not a creative person. I'm a person that truly believes in building strong client relationships on the back of what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have any equity in front of the client, if you are not able to really add value to his or her life, what is the point of you? And so what do you need to do for that? You need to be very, very aware of the business that you're handling. You should have competition analysis. You should have consumer analysis. You must have every piece of brand understanding that you need to have, so that you're having an equal conversation with a client and you have a point of view. If a client is giving you a brief, you need to be able to have the right questions on that brief and not have to go back and discuss it with your planners and your creative team and only then send questions. You need to have your first set of what is right and wrong and give the client a point of view. Because if you're not doing that, again, what's the point of view? Right? So these two things are extremely important. And then over time, really, being that person that is on a client's speed dial list. Because wherever the client may move, and I say, we're not in a space where 20-30 years ago where client servicing was about entertaining or about everything beyond,
Also, I think it's not about the fact that clients weren't smarter before. I think the clients are a lot more aware about. I think a couple of years ago, clients, for them, digital was still they were trying to figure it out. I think a lot of clients now are a lot more aware of what works and what doesn't work.
100%, and there is no bullshit anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
People have very little time.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to talk in 140 characters.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to wrap meetings really, really quickly.
Yeah.
There's no time for everything else. The short time you get has to equal to as much value.
Has the schmooze gone down? Do you believe
I
the schmooze?
definitely think the schmooze
the value
has gone
in the
down.
schmooze. Because inherently, why was it called client servicing, right?
Yeah.
And I have total respect for everybody who does that part of it. Because I think inherently, as people who work in a creative space, you do end up having to play that role to be a client servicing person. If you're a creative as well, you are working on making sure a client really buys what you're creating.
Yeah.
It involved a lot of wine and dine. Involved a lot. I think that's a perception has been built by shows like Mad Men, etc., which is not very far from the truth. Attention spans have gone down, which means and also time really to spend on something has gone down, and now it's about bang for the buck every minute of the way, which is
ASAP.
Yeah.
Right? That is the way. That is the rule of the world right now.
Yeah.
Everything has to be ASAP, and if it is not, then you're losing.
Yeah.
But has the schmooze gone down? It never existed with us, or with a lot of modern younger agencies that I see. Did it exist before? I never did it. I don't know if it really existed that much in the Indian space. But yes, it did, right? That's why they were potentially called client servicing before, etc.
Yeah.
But today, the strategists, the client-facing strategists in our organization, or a lot of modern organizations, are people who have a very strong point of view.
Yeah.
And look at the kind of talent that we have
Yeah.
available today, right?
Yeah.
This is not the kind of talent that would even want to do the schmoozing.
Yeah.
This is the kind of talent that has a point of view, that has...
I think the best thing, and I hate to use this word because it makes me feel old, is that the best thing this generation has done is that broader level of...
self-love.
Self-love,
and
self-respect. Yeah, the fact that you're turning around and saying, no, 1 second, this is my job, this is what I'm doing. I'm adding value to your life, and that means that this is where I draw the line. And clients who respect that get the best people to work with them. And
Absolutely.
The clients who don't, most times don't. And it's a fast learning curve. I think across the board, I think a lot of us who have worked in spaces which require that have, because I come from television, right? So for me, that was an inherently popular thing that I used to notice in my early days. And I don't think that's as much the case anymore, which is a good thing.
Which is a great thing, because everyone just moves on quickly. You have a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
Our world changes every morning.
Yeah.
So you've got to be with it, and you've got to be quick. And you've got to, at the same time, deliver great quality at great pricing.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got a lot of boxes to tick anyways.
What I also believe is one of the main reasons why that has happened, right? And I'm a strong propagator of this thought process, is that men are singular in the way they function. I am a firm believer in that. The fact that guys are great in doing one singular focused jobs. We are amazing at those, but we are terrible multitaskers, right? We've become better because we've given the multitasking to women in the workforce, because now there are more women in the space, there are more women in leadership, and it's not just about the fact that you are the CEO of our company, but it's also the fact that there are so many more, not just young, old women from across the board who really taking up leadership positions, which is making us a lot more accountable, respectful of the fact that it's not about diversity as a gimmick or as a checkpoint on someone's list of this is what I need to do as HR. It's also from the fact that this makes companies do better work and work better.
Because the world works better, because there are 2, 3, different kind of genders that exist.
Yeah.
Even in the workplace, that is extremely important to maintain balance. And that's not about, it's not equal opportunity for the sake of equal opportunity.
Yeah.
It's equal opportunity because different people...
Yeah, like I hate the term woman CEO, right?
Yes.
There's a CEO.
What does a woman CEO
You don't say
mean?
man CEO.
Correct, exactly, right? So it's not diversity for the sake of diversity. It is not gender roles for the sake of gender roles. It's not about a box that you have to take. Hey, listen, I'm really going very well with my male-female ratio in my organization.
Yeah.
It's not about that. And I truly believe that the moment people stop asking questions about how does it feel as a woman CEO? How do you do these things? How do you balance work and home?
Yeah.
The moment people stop asking those questions is when the pressure goes off.
We need to normalize.
We need to normalize it. We need to not ask these questions about, clearly if someone's in office, they are obviously managing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they weren't, then they wouldn't be in office. And hence it's very important for people and organizations to not question that ability of a woman being able to do something because she has a family to take care of. It's because in the same way the man has the same family to take care of, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the moment you stop asking these questions is the moment it becomes normal to hire anyone at any position based on the back of their skill set and ability.
Yeah.
And then gender just goes out of the window because you're hiring the right person for the job.
Yeah.
And not looking at surround. Oh, is she about to get married? Oh, now she will have a baby in 2 years. Oh, now she's going to go off on a maternity leave for 6 to 8 months. What are you doing as an organization to make sure that you don't even have to ask these questions?
True.
And that is very important for for anybody who's setting up a company, who's in
leadership.
That how do you normalize it? How do you make sure that men and women both can achieve all their personal and professional goals? And as an organization, how are you going to be honestly help your talent to be able to take the right decisions at the right time?
True.
Just for example, what we do in our company, right? When it comes to women primarily, as a person who had a child, who went through the gamut of pregnancy, what pregnancy entails, or then maternity leave, I know the pressure that I felt. And it was self-inflicted pressure on me, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to be away for some time, and will I still have that position when I come back?
Yeah.
Will I still have that same value? Because our world changes so often.
True.
And the only thing that I wanted to focus on when I came back is that how do I make sure that all of the other men and women both in my organization don't have to ask these questions to themselves.
Yeah, guys getting paternity leave is considered to be a why. Why do you need it?
Yeah, exactly. Why do you need it? And then more than that, it's like that when I go off on the leave that I really want to take as a personal goal, I don't have to worry if am I coming back to my same position, or is the company going to move on? Am I going to be redundant? How do you manage all of these questions way in advance? So a good talent wants to be with you because they know that you care about them as much, and they don't have to think about wanting to think about their personal goals, because if you have unhappy people who are only focusing on work, then you're never going to have productive people. You have to have different experiences.
So I will not ask you the cliched question, which will be, what does it take, or what is your secret sauce to be a woman CEO? I will ask you, I will scratch that, the woman part of it off and say, there is this perception around CEOs, right? It's a glamorized part of the business. This is no doubt about it, because obviously CEOs are running the ship. But what does it really entail? What do you really do as CEO? And because you spoke a little earlier about what it takes to be a business person in a creative business, but for you to be CEO, it's also the trajectory, right? Because it's not about just you getting into a side of a field. It's about saying that's the aim. That's where you want to reach. So what does a CEO do?
From making sure that we have coffee, to making sure that salaries are paid, to making sure, I'm joking, that's not what it's about, right? But the role of the CEO is direction. And that is what every person out there who wants to get to that role, or is already in that role and is a young person, it's about providing direction, because you are the captain of the ship. You are the person that's going to take the company and guide your leadership and the rest of your company to a space that you truly believe your company needs to be at. What does that entail? That entails you being so aware of what is happening today and what could possibly happen tomorrow. How are you making sure that your company and its people are ready for everything that the world is going to throw at you, what the clients are going to throw at you, what the industry is going to throw at you. And that is the main thing. So a CEO provides direction.
I'm just trying to think of how to take it from that point, because a question a lot of times comes about is the fact that it's a creative business. Why is the person who's not creative the CEO? But I think that's a question which we should stop asking, because we're no longer in creative businesses. What we do as a business is no longer inherently creative. It is strategic. It has so many legs to it. Also, because clients expect that now. Everybody is doing everything now. Advertising is no longer a agency game. It is the creators. It is the platforms. It is everybody is doing it.
Yes.
And when in that mix of things, it's as much talent management as it is P&Ls and bottom lines and culture.
Yeah.
And culture has become a strong part of what we all inherently do, right? And part of that culture is the fact that a lot of people, when they get into the workforce today, right, they get into it straight out of college and so on and so forth and stuff like that. But their social life then entails you work through the day with the same set of people. You hang out with the same set of people. You go back home. You come back again. And that ends up being the fact that there are so many relationships at work. Like you and I, we married, we work together. And that's something we should really talk about. How can two people be in a relationship and yet work together? But before we get into that, we're going to take a first break. This is our cliffhanger way of going to break. We're getting this right on Advertising is Dead.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.
Welcome back to Advertising Z. We with Pooja. And so, Pooja, how do two people who are married or in a relationship work together? How does that work? We do that. We've been doing that for what now? How many years is
6 years.
It's been 6 years we're working together.
Yeah.
How have you not punched me in the face?
I mean, don't we have those days, right?
Of course we do.
But the thing is, and given the stretch on work-life balance, given how our lives are today, it is so common really to find people, long-term, short-term relationships with people you work with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
companies have traditionally tried to make people not do that.
Yeah, because obviously it gets complicated if things don't work out.
True.
Right? If
True.
you have an argument at home and you take it to work.
Yeah, true.
And I think that is what is so important. That how are you able to keep those two parts completely separate? And I think I'm very proud of what we've been able to do, which is just that we keep our work and our home so separate that it's not like we've not had those occasions. We of course have had,
and it'll never be 100%. But the fact is that you have that on your mind
all the time, right? That it's important to be able to have different experiences with the same person.
Yeah.
A professional experience is very different from a personal one.
Yeah.
And if either one of them are not going that well, how do you make sure that it doesn't influence the other?
Yeah.
And for everyone who's in that state, keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Segregate.
Yeah.
Learn to multitask also, so that you're able to. It's just about that. It's about making sure that you separate both your lives and manage it sometimes without the garb of emotion.
True. My strong belief has always been is the fact that if two people are in a relationship, which means that they are in sync.
Yeah.
And there is no reason why that sync can't carry over into work. It will only not be productive if that sync goes away.
Yeah.
Is it worth the risk on many fronts? I personally believe it is, because I think I go back to that sync, right? If there is sync, then you do great. You are working towards a target together, and it's a lot more than just professional. It becomes personal because you're trying to egg each other on, and that's what teamwork is about. Any relationship is teamwork, and you're doing it together, and you're in it together, and because you're in it together, then you're really pushing each other forward. The caveat is and we've been through this, is the fact that if there's inherently one person, in our case me, who likes to carry work home, who likes to talk about it 24/7. In those cases, it's important for the other one to be the filter of saying, 1 second, we're at home now. This can wait till tomorrow in terms of work, and vice versa. When it really is important, you can actually carry it home, fix it there, and not have to leave it on your mind till next day morning. So, is there anything else which you think really works on that front? Or
I think it's about partnership. You're absolutely right. It's about egging each other on. It's making sure that you're completely in sync and that you are actually working towards the same personal and professional goals. That's the people who get that is fantastic, right? And I think you just have to hold on to that and cherish what you have.
And not everyone can do it.
Not everybody can do it, and that is fine. Because different people are different, right? So hence it just doesn't work.
That's how family businesses work.
Correct,
right?
Of course, that's how family businesses work. But if should you choose to work with somebody you're in a relationship with, you have to have the rules of engagement very, very clearly drawn out. It's almost like a prenup. See, look.
See, exactly, very sick.
It's like a prenup. You've got to draw it out, and you've got to say that.
And that's what we did. I remember this.
Yeah,
very
we
clearly.
wrote it down and said, not that we have a prenup, but the fact that we wrote it down and said that what happens should we have an argument at home, what happens if we completely disagree with each other at work. We also you have other partners who, with Rohit and Roshan and Kabir and everybody who
because life is complicated. Life has so many layers, and just to go back to the earlier story of the visiting cards you spoke of a little earlier, in that same marketing conference, while Pooja saw opportunity for work, I inherently, when she gave me her card, my first instinct was to ask her out, which I proceeded to do. Which is when that fateful, or rather not so fateful pitch happened, I wasn't party to it, because I said, no, I'm separating those two things. I remember Rohit when he did that pitch, and I'm not saying that's not why we won, because I wasn't there, but because Rohit's awesome and he does all these.
Rohit is brilliant.
Rohit is brilliant. Rohit is a
little genius.
Rohit does pitches in his own inimicable way, which bedazzles. Okay, self-pimpage of glitch is over now. But yeah, so. And at that point, I remember when all these things were happening side by side, and then we were in a relationship. We got married. All these things were happening in parallel, and if I look at that timeline, the timeline is a little muddled, right? Because there were so many things happening in parallel. Even when you made that pitch, that pitch to come on as CEO was not something which you made to me. You and I discussed what the rules of engagement would be for us as a couple, which was prime important for us to discuss. And you coming on as CEO was a decision made by all partners of the company. And your pitch was to Rohit and to Roshan and everybody else. And I think that is what was interesting, because setting those pieces in order is so important to make sure there's clarity.
Clarity, and that's my mantra in life, clarity. And I can't operate without that. And hence, and because I do truly believe that, because I strive for clarity, I am very clear about how you and I should potentially approach a problem or possible solution even, right? And I think clarity, partnership, making sure that you're completely synced, making sure that there is absolutely no ego in the conversation, which is so important, and being very, very honest, brutally honest with each other when things work and when things don't work. Support, but don't unnecessarily support. Diss, but don't unnecessarily diss.
And honestly, I have seen so many relationships in office spaces which end badly, and it just becomes a scenario where one of them decides to just have to leave because it's that bad. But there's so many more where people break up because they've dated in office and they moved on, and they continue to be, if not just cordial, they become friends. And I think people are a lot more mature now about this than they were before.
I agree.
I think we treated relationships like they were a game of chess.
Or the be-all and end-all in life.
Exactly.
I think the moment that relationships and love are very important and should you want it, they're important. Should you not want it, it's fine. You live the life you want to live. But that's not it in your life.
True.
Love and relationships is not it. That's not what defines you. People have multiple. Some people have just one. Some people have none. And it's all fine. And you just need to have the maturity to say goodbye gracefully and be able to coexist and cohabitate when required.
True.
And the maturity. You're right. That's what it is.
So now I'm going to move on to something which it's going to be interesting for me to do this segment now. This is a segment we always do at the end of every episode called Humans of Advertising. And this is a part, honestly, for which I spent the most time prepping, because I'm like, one second, I got to figure out what I'm going to do here, because these are questions which I should know answers to. But I will not break from rhythm.
Damn.
I will not break from rhythm. I will do the stuff because maybe I'll figure out something which I don't know. So Pooja, what is the one thing you can whip up in an instant?
A conversation.
I knew that one. Damn it. Okay, let's see if I can get another surprise. What is the book you're reading right now?
The one you gave me, what is that about mentors? I forget the full name.
A Tribe of Mentors.
Yeah, Tribe of Mentors. Yeah.
So this is...
There's Varun's way of... he wrote me a very sweet note on that book as well, saying that I've been a mentor to so many young people that just so that I constantly keep educating myself.
Take notes, boys. Take notes.
Take notes. And that's what the book was about. It's a good book.
Yeah.
I recommend it.
And I know that you're not an avid podcast listener,
No, I'm
and
not.
it's something which ever since this is kicked off, I've been pushing you towards. But if you were to listen to a podcast, what kind of a podcast would you want to listen to? And maybe we can come up with a suggestion here on the show.
That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, but
This is like a Coffee with Karan's rapid fire round.
Yeah. Shit, I don't have an answer to that. I mean, it depends, right? The mood that you're in on what you want to listen to.
Yeah.
Relationships, you want to listen about your work, you want to listen about parenting, you want to listen about women, you want to listen about women's issues and love and...
And I'm going to continue the pimpage today, and I'm going to say that IVM has shows to do with all of those.
Oh, wow. That's great. I will check it out.
The producer's giving me a thumbs up there in the background saying, yeah, well
This
done,
is
well done. This is a great plug-in and pimpage on Valentine's Eve. So, yeah. So, I think we've touched on a lot today. We've touched on the fact that how, what it takes to be a CEO, what it takes to be a business person in the creative space, women in the workplace, or rather, let's stop talking about women in the workplace, just make it about people in the workplace.
That's right.
Making relationships work in the workplace, and the fact that you can listen to all the podcasts you want on IVM.
Good job.
Yeah, good
like
job.
we tell our daughter.
Our daughter Leah has this thing which she does, where whenever, so she will make a mistake, and then she will correct it herself, and then she will ask us to say good job, and she will clap.
Expect an applause.
Yes. This is what parents do. They will end everything by making it about their child.
Yes.
And on that note, we're going to say good job.
Good job.
And that's going to be it for this episode of Advertising is Dead.
Thank you.
And happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
You too. Bye.
Did I just catch you on your way to work? Or did you end up pulling an all-nighter? Let me guess. You have a packed schedule for the day, the week, and probably the month and the year. That's a lot for your mind to handle, don't you think? This buzzing chaos also brings tons of negative thoughts. Am I right? Try spinning that bottle in a positive direction with me, Chetna, on the Positively Unlimited podcast, every Monday on IBM Podcasts. It's time to change your life one alphabet at a time.
Look! Up in the internet! It's a meme! No! It's a cat video! No! It's the Geek Fruit Podcast!
That's right, we interrupt this riveting broadcast to tell you about our show, the Geek Fruit Podcast, where Tejas, Dinkar and I, Jishnu, talk about everything in pop culture, including DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Netflix, and everything in between.
You know how your friends hate it when you ramble about some nerdy crap and you just want somebody to listen to you? Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that, but come listen to us ramble and it'll almost be like the real thing. Kind of.
Listen to new episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast every Monday and the Geek Fruit Bulletin every Thursday on iTunes, Google Podcasts, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy listening, you nerds.